Today's guest, Valeria Rodriguez, educator, storyteller, lifelong runner, Ironman, and living proof that resilience has no finish line. For the past 16 years, she's turned science into an adventure in her classroom, inspiring young minds through hands-on discovery. Her journey has taken her from the Peace Corps service in rural Panama to glacier trekking in Patagonia and Iceland, and even hiking across the Dominican Republic for a clean water initiative. Oh, and her artwork, it has literally been launched into space. But behind all the accolades is a powerful story of survival. In this episode, Valeria opens up about being shot in the chest, enduring multiple accidents that have shattered her bones and nearly broken her brain. This is a raw, honest, inspiring conversation about healing, reinvention, and the unbreakable human spirit. Buckle up, you're in for a masterclass in overcoming the unthinkable.
Hi, Armando.
Listen, I want to dive right in and I want to start with this really, really cool question, which is what is something that is exciting you or bringing you joy as of late?
Adventure,
Okay.
and I'm really looking forward to exploring Iceland in a few weeks and using some of the long travel time to read and work on some writing projects.
Beautiful. So wait, let's go into this. So you're gonna go to Iceland. Are you going solo? How are you going over there? What are you
I'm
planning on
going,
doing?
I'm going on a professional development adventure. I'm going to study volcanoes, geysers, glaciers, um, waterfalls, geothermal energy, with a group of science teachers. And actually, one of my coworkers from St. Stephen's is also going with me.
Awesome. Wow. That
Yeah.
sounds like a really cool experience.
Hmm.
Okay. How long are you guys going out there for?
It's 10 days that we're going to be out there, but you have to also account for like a day and a half of travel there and back.
I was gonna ask how much that was. Okay. So it's a lot of flight time
Yeah.
and okay. Wow. I can't wait to see pictures. I'm sure you're gonna be taking pictures.
Oh, and I even got this new apparatus thing for my phone so that it's steady as
Oh,
I'm hiking and running through behind waterfalls and down in an elevator through a volcano.
nice.
So,
And so you said, hey, I'm gonna go hit this adventure in Iceland, but during that time of the many hours of flying, you're looking to read and you have some writing projects. Any writing projects you want to share?
yes, I am almost halfway uh, to 40. This year in December, I turned 40. And so I've been working on kind of compiling a little bit of my life journey into a book. And so I have different experiences set out, and I'm looking forward to being able to have like uninterrupted time, except for maybe the pilot's announcements, hopefully, so that I can just sort through some of the stuff. I've been jotting notes down in different chapters and segments, and I'm looking to maybe just sit with some of those chapters and see what is the underlying message, if anything jumps out from all of them, because right now it's just what happened and how
Okay.
I reacted. But the question always comes back to like, why would people want to read about all this? So I'm
Mhm.
trying to see what else comes
Yeah.
out.
What's the story behind the story?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because everyone goes through ups and downs. I don't know if you've ever seen, I'm sure you've seen it. When you go to the hospital, you get those bracelets. Like if you have allergies, they like pin it or they put your name on it.
Right.
Like my dad is a fall risk now, so whenever he goes to the hospital, he gets a collection of the bracelets. So I'm visualizing the cover of my book being, instead of fall risk bracelet, it's a little
Uh-huh.
drawing of a fall risk. It has fall crossed off and it says everything risk.
I like it. I like it. Now this is not your first rodeo because you have
A
written
children's book.
and illustrated too, or no? That you also
I've I've written and illustrated my own children's book, and I've collaborated illustrating about 6 or 7 other books right now.
wow. Okay. But this one will be a more in-depth one. This is not a children's book. This is going to be a
A chapter book.
yes. Yes. And by the way, yes, you have many chapters that you can put in there, as I'm well
Yeah.
aware. Yeah. Which actually, I hopefully we get to jump into some of those chapters and 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 really like peel back what the secret sauce was of overcoming it, right? So this podcast is called Against the Herd, and the reason I chose that was because I really wanted to tap into that spirit of when the masses do one thing, who are the people that stand out and kind of go against the herd? And they're usually the ones that break out. They're the ones that stand out. And we all have that capacity in different arenas, not in all arenas, in different arenas. And what I hope to draw out is that secret sauce of when you were in pain, when you've gone through the trauma, when you've gone through these struggles, these obstacles, what was that helped you kind of do the about face and start thinking about things different, looking at things different, doing things different that helped you get the results that you got, right?
Okay.
So actually, let's rewind because we started off with something that is exciting you currently, but I'd love to rewind the tape and really peel back like where the journey began. And I'm gonna, because I don't need an infancy, right? But I'm privileged to have known you for quite some time, right? So I am aware of a lot of it. I'm sure there's a lot that I don't know,
Yeah.
right? But I will say that if we can tap into some of the story where we're talking about, I guess if I choose the word trauma, that could go in many different ways, but I would say where pain and healing had to occur. And so I'm going to give you that open. You can start it wherever you'd like because I know a lot of your story. I've had the privilege of working with you and seeing some of that and helping to peel some of those layers. So I would love for you to share some of that, and we can kind of take it from there.
Okay. Well, you said you don't want to start in infancy.
If you feel like you need
How,
to, go for it.
however, in doing some reflecting and journaling, I noticed that my first Ironman was really way before the actual one that I crossed in Cozumel. And it was just coming to this planet. My parents had a struggle. They had 5 miscarriages, 12 years trying to have kids. And my dad especially has always been the one that I've talked to the most about the journey. And even from when I was in utero, they gave me the name Valeria, which means to be strong, brave, and healthy. Um, so they were very intentional with the name that they gave me, so that I could have the resilience to survive
Mm.
um, the landing. And ever since I can remember, I've heard my dad tell me, like, you were born for a reason, you're here to do something special. And at first I felt it was pressure because I'm like, what's the big thing I'm supposed to do? And I'm like, is it this? Is it this? And different things would happen. But over time, now that I've been reflecting on different things that have happened, I see that when something happens, um, that little voice pops in, and I hear like, you're brave, you're resilient, you're born to be here for a reason. And it keeps like surfacing also through other people around me at those moments when something happens. Somebody or my parents will pop in and say those words or a variation of those words and almost make me think like, oh yeah, like I am strong enough to overcome this. Many times it's been you, whether it's been, a hernia, or it's been a depression, or it's been an injury, like a actual physical running injury. Um, it's been those voices that come in and say, no, you're stronger than this. You are brave. You are powerful. You can do this. Almost like reminders of what my name was
Mm.
intended to help me do, just to arrive.
Oh, I never heard that one. Glad you went there. Glad you went
So
there.
that's a start.
It definitely is. It definitely is. Um, if you can zoom out for a second,
Okay.
and so not everybody has that intention with their name. Not everybody has that person there. How much would you say that voice has helped you, and how have you found a way to return the favor for the people that you meet? Because I know you're a teacher, so it's not like you do have access to kids. You do have
Hmm.
access when the minds are being molded, so to speak. And have you found yourself going to those words and in imparting them on your kids in some capacity?
Well, I can definitely say that I know, as I talk about certain experiences growing up with other people, I realize how lucky I was to grow up with such loud cheering squads, from family to coaches to family friends. So now when I see other people, whether it's kids or adults, um, I do feel that I need to be a little bit louder for them. Like if um if there's somebody that I come in contact that um I don't see a reaction that makes sense to me about something, or I don't see them willing to take on a challenge, my first reaction isn't, I'm like, oh, why, can't believe they're not trying. I think the first thing I think about is, man, that must be hard that they don't feel like they can.
Mm.
Um, I wonder why. Like, I wonder who's been in their corner, or if anyone has been in their corner telling them they can or can't. Like, I need to be in their corner and louder. Um, and that's also like a double-edged sword, because I I give a lot of verbal, um it's not feedback, but like verbal affirmations to people, because that's the love language that I got, and what, that the story that I play in my head comes from those verbal affirmations. um but there's sometimes people need to do the work themselves too. And so it's like this, I play in this, on this line of, uh, oh, I got all this support. How can I support you? And hold on, there's a point where you also need to take in what you're hearing and play it over. Like I could have just heard what my parents said growing up and left it there, but instead, like I have it on repeat. Like I
Yeah.
choose to play it.
Mm. That's an interesting decision that you make. The fact that number one, that you're conscious, and I'm sure it wasn't always conscious that you're, it kind of seemed like the right thing, the comforting thing, the thing that's gonna help boost you when you felt like maybe you couldn't. Hey, I'm strong, I'm bold, I'm courageous, I'm capable, And again, for people that don't know, you were a Division 1 collegiate athlete. You continue to do feats of human endurance, right? You did your
Yeah.
Ironman. You've done multiple half Ironmans,
Correct.
marathon, half marathon,
I've done multiple half marathons. I've actually never raced a
marathon.
marathon to race for time. I've raced um, pushing uh, an adaptive athlete, and I've raced a marathon as part of an
Yeah,
Ironman. But the other day, somebody asked, like, "Oh, what's your marathon time?" And I'm like, "I don't. I've never actually raced
right,
one for time,
right.
so
By the
it's still
way,
on the list."
again, because I don't think that does it justice. When you say that you're pushing in a stroller a grown ass human. This is an
Yes.
adult. This isn't a
Yes.
kid. So imagine pushing an adult, let's call it over 100 pounds, 150 pounds. Someone?
Like this weekend was the Lululemon 10K, and I pushed Brett, who's about 150 pounds, but I think his trailer is worth 152.
Yes, and if I know this is not a question that you should ask, but how much do you weigh?
I weigh 150 something.
Okay, exactly. So you have you're pushing your own body weight and add on top of that the stroller on top for
Okay.
26.2 miles, right?
So
That
for
that's
the marathon, I pushed Carrie Grusin, and she's about 120 pounds.
okay. 120
Yeah.
pounds is a lot. It's a lot. I've pushed. You
El
know,
carretón.
yes, you know about that. And we used to go, I pushed the kids. We used to go to the grocery store, pick up like those for the water softener, those 50-pound bags of salt. We'll put like four of them in there plus the kids and then have to run back. So I know when you gotta push that, it's no easy feat. And to do it for 26.2 miles is phenomenal, right? So
Right.
um you've had some setbacks, especially later on in life, like some really intense injuries.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, can you share a little bit about some of those? And
Yeah.
then maybe we can kind of peel back some of the layers on some of the sticking points and then, s- kind of some of the celebrations around them.
Perfect. So I'll I'll take you through, like, just because I have a fresh high school running right now because of Nico and your son. Um, I have high school fresh, and in high school I remember having certain moments where, there's twisted ankles or certain little aches and pains here and there, but I remember being so scared that that was the end of my running career,
Right.
not realizing that those, like, twisted ankle, like I'd give anything for a twisted ankle after all the things that have happened. But it was so funny because at that moment, like the twisted ankle was the biggest thing that I had on, on my storyline. So I tell my son now when, things happen, um, I tell him, man, like, I wish that I could tell my high school version of me, like, girl, enjoy, enjoy, like, falling and getting back up like if nothing happens, because later when you fall, there's surgeries. um so a few things, like right when I got to college, so up until college, no major things happened. Thankfully, I now look back and see how overprotective my parents were, could have helped with that. But when I got to college, my first kind of big thing was a scooter accident that I had my freshman year. So it was after my first cross country season, right before my first track season, which is what I was really looking forward to because I ran the 800 and the mile, and that was what I was, savoring the moment to get on that track as a collegiate athlete.
Right.
And my first day back in school of my freshman year in January, I crashed my scooter after dinner. The car in front of me slammed on the brakes, and on the scooters, they don't brake as fast as a car. And so like I hit the back of the car, and when the scooter fell over, it went over my foot. And so it was my right foot, and my fourth pinky came off. And then I had a big gash from the big toe to the arch of my foot, like wide open. And I immediately saw my scholarship flash before my eyes, running, everything. In that 1 second, I was like, this is it. Like I never made it to run on the track. And so, long story short, I was able to get back on the track, but I had surgery on my toe, on the inside of my arch. I still have the snake sutures, and the fourth toe was a pin was put in and it was reattached, and I would go in throughout the recovery every 2 weeks to see the orthopedic surgeon to see if they were going to amputate it or if I was going to keep it. And like that, I spent 4 months. So my freshman year, January to April, I spent going in to see if I was going to have to learn how to rewalk or if I was going to keep my toe. And I ended up keeping it. It reattached. It's a little bit different than the other ones, but I love it. It's unique. And I went the day that I got my cast off, the doctor said, okay, you can go back to movement and jogging. And I literally left the doctor's office and ran 4 miles. Obviously, my foot got super swollen, and the doctor's like, what? And I was like, you said little run. So after recovering correctly, I came back for my strongest cross country season my sophomore year on the team, and really thankful that I got running back because those 6 months were the scariest in a person whose identity had been runner.
Right.
Up until that moment, I remember thinking, well, then who will I be now if I can't ever go back to running? Because you, or me at least, I jumped to, what if I can never run again?
Right.
Which reminds me again, if I could go back to talk to college me, I would be like, give it a few months. This is what happens. You're going to learn how to get really good at going through recoveries, and you're going to get really tight with physical therapists. They're going to be your friends. And so that first injury was also a time where my dad told me, you're not only there on a running scholarship, you're there on full academic scholarship as well. Like you're not just a runner. If you can't go back to running, you can draw, you can write, you want to be a vet, like you have a lot of other things you can do. Like you can stay in school. Nothing changes if you lose your scholarship, your running scholarship.
Right.
And that also helped me calm down because I felt like my world was taken out from under my feet. Turns out that that's going to be a theme throughout different things.
Yeah.
That that rug getting taken out of right under you is kind of life's way of showing you um, that we depend a lot on that rug. It's like a safety rug,
Right.
and it's really not. It's there to hold us, but if it gets taken out, you can put another one. You can order another one on Amazon. You get one at IKEA, whatever. This is not a plug for any of them, but still, like basically, it's a reminder. Like you don't only have one place to set your feet on. You have multiple places to set your feet on. You will wear multiple shoes while you're doing it.
Mhm.
And you will be in multiple physical therapy offices, but as long as you show up for the recovery, um, things things will turn out okay.
I before you continue, I want to highlight two things. First thing is the power of identity. And you brought it up of saying like, hey, what was I going to do? Like, I'm a runner. If I can't run, who am I? And it's the one of the things I see most when somebody has been injured, especially when there's a chronicness to it, right? Like you get something acute, okay, great. Like I get it. I got an injury. Now it's the regular healing process. But when you're having to deal with something that's chronic, two things start happening. Number one, you start losing what that vision of what you saw yourself as. And so that starts getting a little blurry. And then probably one of the worst parts of it is when now your identity becomes the pain. And so now I'm the person in pain all the time. And in working with you and working with other people, like when you've been in pain for a long period of time, it seems like it's never going to finish. And so
Mm-hmm.
that identity becomes like, oh man. And so now the healing is not just the physical healing, but now it's breaking that identity as I'm a I'm I'm always in pain or versus I am experiencing pain at the moment is a very different things to sorry, let me rephrase that again. So saying I am in pain at the moment is very different is that I am always in pain or I will always be in pain. Because one tells you the symptomology of what's happening, the other one is becoming you, and you are not your pain.
Well, and that's been part of the journey of putting together these notes for what are some of the things that I have overcome, because I don't want my identity to be with um or attached to oh my gosh, you're the person that all these bad things happen to.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, something else happened to you. Like now I'm to the point where sometimes when things happen, I don't want to tell people because they're like, really? Like that too? But that's also along what you were saying is we have to be mindful of the identity that we're scared of losing and the identity that we are scared of having. Like, I didn't want to lose my identity as a runner when I was injured, but it's it's always a part of me. It's how I think. Like I was talking about work the other day and I was like, well, if I think this is the last one, then I'll probably push harder. And I was like, what am I racing a mile? Like what what would be different if I thought I had two more sets left?
Right.
um, but also we have to be careful of the identity that we think we're developing, like the person who is chronically injured or chronically in pain or chronically in recovery or chronically at PT offices. Um, because then that also, the story matters. The storyline always matters.
Right.
So that's what I'm working on right now. Um, Other things that have happened that have tested my storyline is Nico,
Your
uh,
son. Your
my
son.
son.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I found out about him when I was working in the Peace Corps. I'd graduated, I went to the Peace Corps, and I found out that I was 18 weeks pregnant when I went to the doctor because I had missed my period. But, I was in the middle of the country, like letrinas, no running water, no electricity. So the doctor was like, oh, you're probably not getting your period because your body, doesn't want to. And I'm like, oh, biologist said, it sounds odd. I'm like, I feel like there's something else we should check. And then they're like, fine, go to the doctor. And because of running, my period hadn't been regular
Right.
in college. So I didn't immediately go the pregnant route. But when I found out about him, my life, the rug was pulled out from right underneath me because I was in country, doing sustainable agriculture work, living what I thought, oh, my dad told me I was born for a special reason to do something. I'm like, this is it. Like I'm putting my studies with, physical strain because you have to be physically fit to live in the middle of a countryside where you have to walk to work and work in the fields with a machete and horseback ride to the school that I taught at. So I was combining the mental, the physical, the emotional, the meaningful, I want to be a change in the world, all of it. And then they were like, you can't stay in country. And that moment, I was like, what? Like, how? Like, I was living the identity that I wanted to have. And now life was like, oh, you want to change the world? Here, you're going to change the world of, one human. Um, and, um, and, and it took me like 1 or 2 days to sit with the, um, how was I in this country in Panama serving my community, supposed to be an example for my community. I grew up Catholic. I grew up with certain beliefs about family and getting married, having a family, certain traditional um beliefs. So I was like, man, how did I mess up? And especially I was supposed to be an example for this community. And here I am like, hey guys, I gotta go. I'm pregnant. And I talked to my host, the mom, like you get assigned a host family. And I talked to my host mom, Yanira, and I told her, I'm like, I was supposed to be an example for the kids here. And she said, you're choosing family. And that's the most important example you can give our kids. And no one tells you how scary choosing family is. When you're 22 and you've never changed a diaper and everything has to change from the city you're living in, the country you're living in, the work that you're doing. And I said, okay. I was actually surprised. I was like, my parents, it took them forever. And it took me a minute.
Yeah.
So I was like, PR.
Oh,
um, um, but like 2 or 3 days in my community, I talked to the family members. My parents went to Panama and I said goodbye to my community and went with my dad to the Nike store in the city of Panama. And he bought Nico a pair of Nike running shoes. And I remember asking him, like, are you mad that I'm leaving, this project? And he's like, no. And I was like, are you mad that I'm pregnant? And he's like, how could I? He's my first grandson.
Mm.
So again, it goes back to the voices that you have around you,
Yeah.
because there were other voices that were very loud, that were like, man, you've just thrown your life away. Um, or like, wow, you were meant to do so many things and look at you now. And but the closest voices were like, you're going to be a great mom. And my teammates, which were my best friends and are my best friends, they were like, no one better than you, uh, of any of us to tackle this. And I remember calling them from Panama to tell them, and they're like, you're if anyone can tackle it, it's you.
Right.
And now he's my running partner. He's been my best friend for 15 years. And I should probably like stop with the waterworks.
Mhm.
Um, he's been very helpful in navigating a lot of the ups and downs, because he's always he always has such high expectations. So he's like, of course you can do it. Of course. Like when I've gotten injured, he's like, oh, when you go
Yeah.
back to running, or the next time we do this, like he's already assuming that the recovery would go well, that the journey would be good, that I would be back on the bike. When I fractured my clavicle during the pandemic, he was the one who would put my hair up in a ponytail. When I'd get on the trainer, he would be the one to strap the arm thing to the back, or set or change the gears on the bike for me. Um, and um, and he's been incredible.
Yeah.
So life kind of pulls the rug out from under you. But again, it kind of just gives you the opportunity to reset in a different way, and take everything a little bit with like a grain of salt. Like every situation, like you zoom out, like you learn how to zoom out when the rug keeps getting taken out from under you. You get into the habit of zooming out and looking at the bigger picture.
You know, when I hear you say that, the visual that I get is not,
Aladdin.
well, actually, no, no, it's a reframing of that concept, that instead of thinking of it as the rug being taken out from you, but more like you've taken a leap whether you wanted to, and now you've landed in a completely different spot, one that you're not familiar with. And the reason why that comes to mind, the visual, is that you're still progressing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the rug under you has the connotation where like you're still standing in the same spot, and you can never stand in the same spot, right? Like what is it? You never step in the same stream twice, because you're
Yep.
never the same person and the stream is never the same. And I feel that when I'm hearing your story, they're not, I mean, they feel, obviously these are some really big shifts in life and consequences and impact. But instead of it you being in the same spot, no, you've taken a massive leap into that's going to require you to become a different version of yourself,
Yeah.
right? So to me, that's progress. I think that's moving along. And so it's scary because if you've never been somewhere, you don't know what's safe. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what what's true, what's up, what's down. Like there's just so many questions, and that's why it feels very often like that. But I'm That's kind of the visual that I got when I keep hearing you say this idea of taking the rug from under you. I feel more like you're taking a new leap into a almost a new dimension. It's like all of a sudden it's like everything that you've known really gets pushed, and then like when you think that you've gotten there, when you understand all the rules, you understand everything that's going on, all of a sudden you another quantum leap, and your body and soul and mind, everything is in a new place, and now hey, I got to do it again.
Well, it's a few friends, like I'm ahead of the curve, right? My son's 15, but some of my friends have babies.
Yeah,
And talking to them, they're like, just when I get used to the routine, everything changes. And
yeah.
just when we get into a pattern or we figure out when the feedings are, it changes. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to be like that for a long time. Like, I don't know how honest to be sometimes with new moms. But I'm like,
Yeah.
it's fun.
It's fun.
Good luck. But it's exactly like training. Just when you get into a pattern of training, then the weather changes, or maybe you get a job that moves you to a new place, and or the running groups change because the running groups that you're with right now aren't the running groups you're going to be with later. And running is, I feel like, I don't know, I may be wrong, but doesn't it feel really cool right now? Like a lot of people are doing it. It
There's
feels like
definitely a lot more momentum for sure.
it's in.
Right.
And I love it. And I went to a running event the other day, and and I knew nobody. And I was like, wow, like this is how many new people there are. There's a handful of people that I saw, like Elliot was one of them, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, familiar face
Right.
from like before when running wasn't cool, like
Right.
when there was like six of us running. Um,
Right. You will
but
go if you will go somewhere, it's like you knew it was the same people showing up. Now
same
you
one,
have people that you never know. Now, granted, the
out of the
level,
woodwork.
yeah. And people have like all sorts of goals. Some people are just starting out. Some people are like, "Oh, I want to do this and I want to do it." Like there's a big gambit
Levels.
of levels and vision and excitement around it, and which is
And
great.
all the team, like there's a ton of teams and running groups and run clubs, and I love it. What I'm going to the point is that there's a lot of constant shifts as
Right.
well within running, within the groups that you run with, within the paces, within your own ability, like with it, maybe a job where you have time periods where you're just getting into a routine of when you can train, and then all of a sudden you go into crunch time at work and you can't. Like I'm in my
Right.
last week of school, so it's like the volume of training is like
Yeah.
but it's like having a kid. Just when you get used to a certain pattern, something changes. But I've always made time for for training in some capacity.
Right.
And because I became a mom very early on, um, training and competing and running were just a part of the storyline with Nico. Like it had to work for my family's schedule, especially because after he was 2 years old, it was just me and him at home. Me and his dad separated when he was two, and so it wasn't like I had somebody else at home that could, like it's my sister's schedule is different with her family for exercise, because there's more people to account for in that schedule. So here I'm going off on tangents, so feel free to weave me through.
Well, actually, um, we talked about, fracturing the collarbone, very cool,
which was a bike injury.
which was a bike injury. And then you've also had some other ones. So actually, why don't put this? When was it that you came to see me? I know I've seen you like periodic, but there was a period where you came to see me that we started doing some work, and some of it was physical, some of it, or a lot of it wasn't. Which,
Okay. I remember the first big um injury, and that's one of the things that am writing about. Um, I have been shot in the chest by a gun, 9 millimeter. I have broken my clavicle on a bike accident. I've had a brain injury with brain bleeding from a fall. And I came to you because of a shattered heart.
hmm,
um, and you mentioned it earlier, um, acute injuries versus chronic
yeah,
injuries and how to navigate the identity there. And when Nico's dad and I separated, it was like a life shattering moment. But when I came to you a few years later, it was like a heart shattering. Like I had met a person that, I thought, okay, I maybe can restart or uh, rethink this whole like uh, have a family one day again, build a family again with somebody else notion. Because after my divorce, I had kind of set that to the side and um, kind of stopped entertaining that idea. But this person came around, and I really thought like this was going to be my his and her towels, let's grow old together person. Um, and when that ended abruptly, that whole life pulled out from right underneath me. Uh, it happened again, but this time it wasn't a physical injury that I felt like I knew how to handle better. Um, it wasn't you need a surgery and you're going to have you know for 16-week recovery. Here's the
right.
plan. I didn't have any training plan to follow to get to drop that time that I needed to. And it hurt a lot. And so it was the first time I'd heard that people have depressions. Um, but it was the first time that I had actually lived one. And I've always considered myself a happy-go-lucky, free, uh, positive person. And in that time, it was like
Right.
um, it was a lot. And because I had this identity that I thought that I needed to save face, I just got quiet. Like on social media, I didn't post anything. Every now and then I'd post a black and white picture, and you read between the lines of a few of them and you reached out. And when you asked me directly, like, I may be intruding, but something seems different. Like, do you want to talk about it? I was like, man, like, yeah, like, I don't know how to recover from this. Like, is there surgery for this? Where do we get heart transplants?
Yeah.
Let me, just in case, let me verify with the universe that that's not what I'm asking for right now.
Yeah.
I have never gotten one and do not want one. um, but I had to go in with you to do some of the brain shifting because I couldn't see. when you ask me, like, where do you see yourself in a few years, or what do you see next? Like, I couldn't see anything. And that was scary to me. I was like, why can't I see forward?
Yeah.
And that's where you came in with your little lists, and small steps that I could work on. I still have that paper at home. And you gave me 4 things to work on every day that were very small amounts of time, but like 5 minutes of each. And it gave me like 20-25 minutes of what seemed very dark days of a training plan, something that was in a language that my life could wrap its head around when everything else seemed to not make sense.
Yeah.
Having, just go out and do 1 mile, just go out. And then those 5 minutes to 25 minutes, started extending into other things. And then, a goal came up of doing a half Ironman, and I started weaving the two of don't race to race to give yourself an objective in a language that
Yeah.
to get out of this cycle, to break this cycle.
Yeah. One thing I want to maybe clarify or maybe bring to light is um like in in the phase that you were in the state that you were in, one of the big things was dealing with the emotional part. And so when you talk about this little list that we kind of broke down, that list was really designed to adapt to attack a few areas: the emotional part, spiritual part, physical part, mental part, right? Because, and I think that's one of the biggest disservices that we see in the medical community, which is it only talks about the physical, and so much of our experience as humans happens outside the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual. Like, you need to go out. And I'm not talking about some like woo-woo stuff that you're gonna be meditating and floating and if you can float, go all the power to you, right? But I'm talking about
Can't
simple
wait.
yeah, exactly. I'm talking about simple practical things that start bringing more clarity to your life, right? Like you mentioned, like, man, I don't, I can't see beyond today, beyond a few hours. So we're not going to create a plan for you that is a year long away. It's like, okay, wait, how do we create so much certainty in these next moments that it gives you both the energy and the clarity to take the next step, right? When you're in a room of darkness, what you need is a light. And sometimes the light starts off as a candle and you can barely see, but it's a little bit of light.
A
Then
match.
a match. Yeah, there you go. Sometimes a match, then a candle. Eventually there was multiple candles and we got a flashlight. And then guess what? At some point we turned on the lights of the room and that was a lot better. But we couldn't start there because we couldn't find the light. We couldn't find the switch, right? So sometimes we have to start with the little match, the one that burns your fingers because it's only on for a little bit of time and then it burns your fingers and you're like, crap, it's dark again. And so we had to keep finding what that was for you and create consistency so that now we can grow and grow until we could find the light switch again so you can see further than before, right?
And I heard something the other day that really jumped out at me. Um, it said, and I can't remember the whole thing because, the brain sometimes doesn't collaborate. But it was along the lines of when somebody else is helping you out of a difficult situation while they're navigating their own stuff, like there's a lot to be said for those people. Like, and I guess I share it because nobody has it figured out.
Right.
And all the people that were around me, um, well, the very few that knew what was really happening, they had their own stuff that they were going through, that they were physically navigating, emotional things that they were dealing with, but they made time to help me and sit with um the idea that things don't always have to be okay. Because sometimes we have a lot of pressure to like solve it. Um, and or just we don't share with people because we don't want to burden them because they may think that we want them to solve it.
Right.
And it was really helpful to just sometimes sit quietly and watch a movie. With somebody like, hey, I just came to hang out. I'm here. If you want to talk. And I was like, I don't really want to talk. Cool. Let's just watch. And we would watch. So I'm thankful for those people that made time for the it's not everything's not okay phases that have
Yeah.
happened. Um, and equally thankful for those people who are like, there's a time that it's okay to not be okay. And there's also a time for you to put your tri-suit back on and get out and train.
Right.
Come on.
I think actually it's a great point because both you and I are kind of half glass full people. We're always looking for that thing. And I remember having that conversation with you and I said, hey, I don't need you to tell me what's good about this. Like, just be with it right now. I don't
Hmm.
need you to try to fix your own thing right now. I don't need you to put your positive spin. I need you to
Yes.
process it. I need you to
Yeah.
process it as it is. And then once the dust has settled, now we can start taking from there. But if you don't address it, if you keep kind of like sugarcoating it, you're never going to actually let go of it.
You're just
And
gonna get diabetes.
it's a lot of sugar you got to put on it, you know, especially with your laundry list of things there,
We're
right?
like on 17 chapters in this book.
100%, 100%. And I'm curious because I know because we've had these conversations. Um, it's still not a natural thing, both for you and for myself. And I think over the years, as I'm a few years older than you, many years older than you, but there is something to be said about being okay with not being okay for a little bit, right? Not to stay there, but there's a point where you do. Have you noticed yourself being aware of that now? And do you help people differently than you did in the past as a result of that?
I don't know if I necessarily help people in a different way. Um, I want to say that I do, but for example, my coworker and my closest friend at school is navigating cancer, breast cancer. And I feel like all the things that I have gone through um, have helped me be a teammate.
Yeah.
So there's times where I've needed to be an ear for sharing, for her sharing. Sometimes she's needed me to be out on, a walk run with her. Um, this trip to Iceland, this professional development, we looked for it during a pretty sticky part of her chemo where she had an infection and had to backtrack a little bit on her journey. And so we found this as like let's set our eyes on something in the future after chemo for when you are going to be through with this part. Like let's set our eyes on the next thing that we look forward to so that the conversations wouldn't be around um, the taste and the physical reactions to things, or the numbing of the hands, or the different the loss of hair. But let's focus on what we still have to learn and what we still have to grow as teachers and as scientists. And so I think that is like one way that my different situations have um, trained me, is when I'm talking to other people, I realize that I don't always have to be one type of support, because I've needed so many different types of help in these situations. So when I see somebody come through a change or a challenge, I I'm like, okay, like what kind of helper that showed up for me at different times can I be at this time for this person? And I tell them, and I try to remind them, like, hey, feel free to tell me if this isn't the right kind of help, because I know that people that have meant well have shown up in different ways that didn't sit right at the time. So, and I felt bad saying it because I didn't want to seem ungrateful. So then I come out the door with that to people, like, hey, this is one thing that I think may help, or how I can support you, but you let me know if that doesn't work. Like,
Right.
I, for me, this has helped. What do you think would help you? Or for other friends, when things happen, I just go and I sit there at doing the things that they need to do. If it's running at a different pace, if it's organizing a new house, if it's holding their baby,
Yeah.
whatever it is, like just going so that you don't feel so lonely in those changes.
Yeah.
And I've been thankful and grateful that during like some of the biggest times, um, I've had so many people show up in different ways that every chapter I can find a few examples of people just being there and being those voices, and being those presence, like being that presence there to say that you're not alone.
Mm. Oh, I kind of want to let that sit for a second because I think it's really important. Just the power of being present with somebody, especially when they're in pain, um, and having that support system. Not everybody has it. And, you know, one of the things I've seen with you is that you mentioned that you had a lot of people kind of sit with you, and it's not by mistake. It's not because you're lucky. Um,
Because I haven't won the lotto.
no, I mean, I guess that's debatable. You've been really lucky
That's
with a
true.
lot of things.
That's true.
But I
This is
guess
true.
I guess what I'm saying is that you I've had the privilege and the opportunity to witness you grow up. Um, and one of the things that always stands out is your ability to connect with people. And so in a world where people feel isolated and alone, you you very often are that ray of sunshine that they may or may not know that they need or want, but you're there. And what happens is that it plants that seed, and it always comes back to the quote by Maya Angelou that says, people will forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but people will never forget the way you made them feel. And I think that that's one of your gifts, And so when the inverse has happened to you, people see that and they're like, it's not because they're like, oh, I gotta pay her back. It's like, no, I want, like, in my darkest hour, she was there. I want to be a part of helping her through her darkest hour. And so that's why I mean that it wasn't because you're lucky, but it's because you've put that out in the world and it's come back to you. I genuinely believe that. And so I want to honor you for that because I see that in everything that you do. You do it with your parents, and I know that's not easy. Like, you're not just dealing with your parents in this tough time. You also have your son who's growing and he has his stuff and you have your stuff. And, look, I feel extremely grateful. My Christian and I have been married now, mm, 18 years. No, yeah, 18 years. Yeah, Monday 16. Yeah, 18 years. I got that right. Um, and kids are hard. To do it by yourself is even harder. Like, I feel fortunate that I have somebody that
But
that that
I'll,
that that can help.
I'm gonna that's one of the things that I've been sitting with lately because I I have been very thankful for like the thoughts that have been marinating. Um, like I've tried again to make a relationship work and it didn't. But I wasn't left shattered because it taught me a lot. And one of the things is that I've been sitting for a lot of years with the idea that life is hard because it's me and Nico and it's us against the world kind of thing. Um, and I was thinking like, oh, if I had a teammate, like, and I've been idealizing the notion of having a teammate and a partner to do life with and make decisions with and train with. And, like everyone has a different Cinderella story. Uh, but
You're
then I realized like it is hard to have a partner every day, even if it is a partner that's going to train with you. It is hard to have a, a partner there, and if you have somebody else, or more kids, like it's more opinions, more ideas to take into account, more interests to grow in different directions. And so lately I've been sitting and going, yeah, it was, me and Nico in our house. Now it's my parents too. Um, but I've been trying to to talk myself out of, wow, it would have been so much easier if I had a partner. And now I'm like, don't do that.
yeah,
Like your journey for 18 years with a partner and multiple kids and an entire zip code of um cousins and primos and all of that, because the Cruz clan is is very large now. Um, but I've been sitting with that you guys have your set of challenges and support and things that you navigate. And um as a single head of household, um, I've I've had a different set of challenges, and I've been trying to stop romanticizing the grass is greener,
great.
in whatever sense. Like, oh, if I was younger, like, no, if it doesn't matter if I was younger and running faster, or if I had more time to train, or if this, if that, like, there's so many grasses greeners for everything. People are like, oh, if I had different shoes, oh, if I had a different bike. I'm like, I ran 70.3s like in great times with an aluminum bike that I had for 12 years,
Great.
and solid times because I'd come off the bike and run a 1:45 in the half marathon. Like it's not the bike, it's not the amount of time that you have to train. Like I did a 10:55 for the Ironman with a full-time job, child, taking care of my parents, doing all the things. And I could have said, oh, if only I could have trained more. Yeah, at the time, I was only able to train 60% of the training. That was it.
Right.
That was what my schedule allowed for. But I'm staying away from the grass is greener because I couldn't race 10 years ago.
Right.
I couldn't afford it 10 years ago. Now I can afford it. Now is the time that I did it.
Right.
Uh, I I have these are the cards that I've been dealt, and it's not that I've been trying to not have a partner, but these are the cards that I've been dealt, and I don't want to think anymore that the grass is greener. Like I'm very thankful for this grass that I have.
Right.
Um,
I
and the flooring it's allowed me to step on.
I heard somebody say something along the lines of, instead of looking at the grass as greener, just start watering your own damn grass, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
because in any way that you look at it, um, the grass, oh, if I had a different job, if I could work remote, if I could work in another country, if I could travel all the time. But then I know people that travel all the time and are like, oh, I wish, I could be home
right,
more.
right.
So
So
everyone
yeah,
has something.
100%, 100%. Um, I want to wrap this up by asking you this question. Um, if you were going to think of like a mini billboard to to yourself, a mini billboard to your younger self, what would you say and why?
A billboard to myself.
Yeah. So this is, you're not writing a book. I need a punchy phrase, something for as a reminder.
I guess it would be, I really like this quote. Um, the thing that's the thing is never the thing.
I seem to remember that one.
Yeah,
I know a guy who may have said that.
I like that one. I think that would be the billboard,
Okay. Why do you
Mr.
think?
Cruz.
Why
Um,
do you think that your younger self would have
well,
listened? Do you think he would have
um,
listened to it?
um, I think it would have made me pause.
Okay.
Because if I was exploding over something, I would have been like, what do you mean it's not the thing? Like, what do you mean it's not about this? I mean, again, I was the one that ran 1901 in high school for like 6 races, um, freshman year. Uh, so I think if somebody then would have told me it's not the time, like it's not the '01, like that's the problem. Um, I think it would have made me pause. I guess the other billboard, maybe not so PG, I'd be like, what's the fucking lesson?
There's another one.
Because sometimes I like now I just have to laugh when things happen because I'm like, what now? What am I supposed to learn? So now that's the first thing I ask myself when things happen. Well, not ask, I tell myself now. Before I would ask, like, what's the lesson? Now I've just gotten to the point, I'm like, okay, find the lesson. There's a lesson in here. Find the lesson.
Oh, that's actually an interesting shift. So do you asking yourself, hey, what can you learn from this versus stating, find the lesson? You found that to be more helpful.
Yeah,
Being,
because asking myself, I was questioning if in a way, like, now what? Like, now what's the lesson? But when I said find the lesson, it gave me an objective, like, okay, like sift through the stuff. Let's get to the lesson part.
yeah. I think, look, I want, as people listen to this and see this, I think that's an interesting point. Number one, find something, find the recipe that works for you, right? For everyone's a little bit different. There are some tried and true things, the foundation, some values that will help keep you headed in the right direction, but also find the approach that works for you. For some people, asking opens the door and they feel free. Some people, a statement like find the lesson helps bring more clarity, direction, and focus to it so that now you can find it and move in that direction. And so you got to know who, like, what works. And if you don't know, try both. And eventually you'll figure out the one that works best, right? There's no one answer. And as I guess as people are navigating these hiccups in life, chronic pain, injuries, frustration, life events, it's number one, take time to pause and reflect. Number two, surround yourself. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that is blaringly obvious here is the importance that having the right people in your corner makes. And
Huge.
not everybody has everyone, but seek them out. If you
So
don't
change your
have them,
corner.
yeah,
Change your corner. If you don't have people in your corner, four corners, change corners, go play again.
go play. Exactly. Um, any last parting words before we close up?
Um, the nothing stays the same ever. So I guess the parting words right now that I have, or the biggest thing that I'm sitting with right now, is live this. Live this chapter, whatever it looks like, because none of it stays the same long enough.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I
Leave it
love,
with waterworks.
I know, I love it. Going out, you go out in style. Go out in style. No, I really appreciate you being on. And for all those listening, where can so actually before we jump off, um, you are an illustrator, you're an
Yes.
artist. Is there anywhere that people can find you if they're interested in tapping into any of your services or learning more about you?
Yes. On Instagram, Valeria Sketches is my business account for graphic facilitations and visual summaries.
Yeah. Which, by the
Um,
way, they're super cool. So if you're having an event, imagine everything that the speaker is saying being drawn out in a visual representation so somebody can look at it. And, we think in pictures already. So imagine somebody can look at a whiteboard or something along those lines, a wall, and you see your entire talk in a visual display. It's very powerful. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go check out Valeria Sketches,
mhm.
and you'll be
Valeria
able to see some
Sketches.
examples of her work. And obviously, if something that interests you for future, go from there.
Thank you. And then just in general stuff, I put on Valeria R1 is my like running and adventures and travel Instagram, where I share a lot of projects for kids, projects for families, my dad's journey, a little bit into what our family is going through now that my dad's been diagnosed with progressive supranuclear palsy. Um, we share in there because again, the grass is never greener anywhere and everyone's going through stuff. So it may be a lot of oversharing for some people, but for the right people, it who you are and how you are is never going to be too much.
Yeah.
So I just put me out there, and for those people that it works. And thank you for the people that are in my life and in this watering of the green grass process.
There you have it. And for all the single guys out there, if you're looking, you can look there. we'll put your number on there if anything. Well, maybe there's somebody out there that's is like, oh, this is my person. There you go. Uh,
Maybe. Hi. Hi and
I
good luck.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. I have absolutely loved our conversation, and I look forward to many more.
And before we close, though, I just want to let you know, thank you, because you have been a part of my middle school chapter, my high school chapter, my college chapter, my young adult chapter, and my not so young adult chapters. And all of them have, I have admired you in every single one of those chapters as an athlete, as a person, as a family person, as an entrepreneur, a creator, a creative, and a person who genuinely influences the world to be better. And you've done that for me and my family, just with checking in videos of not just, hey, how are you, but a video like, hey, how's it going? Thought of you about this and this. Like, you do life on such an incredible level. So thank you for everything that you do for humanity.
Thank you. I'm trying not to reciprocate waterworks. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All
Well,
right.
all right. Bye.
You've just heard another unfiltered dose of the Against the Herd podcast. If you're tired of playing by the rules that keep you stuck, make sure to subscribe, leave a review. Want to go deeper? Head over to cruisecountry.com and take your health and performance to a level most people think is impossible. Remember, stay bold, stay sharp, and always question the norm.